We are going to be discussing this, the Novation Impulse 25, which is a 25 key MIDI keyboard. It also has some drum pads here, 8 encoders, transport controls, and quite a few other functions. And the main reason I got this was because it can be used as a control surface in Ableton Live. So we're going to kind of be mainly taking a look at that application, and I'm going to kind of give you my thoughts on it on the end. So stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching. What is going on, everybody? Good to have you here. Today we are going to be talking about the Novation Impulse 25. This is a 25 key MIDI keyboard controller. It can be used as a control surface in Ableton Live, which is going to be the main focus of our talk today. So, as I said, it's a 25 key MIDI keyboard along with all these extra buttons and cool gadgets here. Now, I'm not really going to go over how to set it up MIDI-wise because it's kind of basic. You just go into your preferences under the MIDI sync tab and under the drop-down select Novation Impulse and then set the correct ins and outs and you should be good to go. Then your MIDI controller will be ready to control live. And so there's a lot of different features that this particular MIDI controller can do, especially ones that I like. Right here, we'll break this down in sections. So we have the transport controls, we have encoders, we'll call this the arp and roll, because these can be used just as basic drum pads, but they have some quite awesome features as well. Some quite awesome kind of hidden features with the arp function and the roll, and you could do some really awesome stuff. So we will get into that. Over here, this is minus this fader right here. This section with the LCD display, this is more of setting up the Novation itself. So here we have different options for the actual keyboard, like what MIDI port we're going to be sending to. And here you have plus and minus buttons. And these plus and minus buttons are also a part of this this LCD screen, I would say. Just let's keep these all together. That'll work. So you can navigate through the different screens. If you see a plus and minus on the LCD screen, here you have velocity curve, different parameters related to the keys of on the keyboard. Similarly, you have for the controls, you can move a specific control, and then it will kind of give you some information about that specific control. And you can like set a max velocity, do all sorts of things. Really cool feature also is zones. And keyboard zones basically means that you can separate these keys so that they send signal to different MIDI channels. And so that, say, one track in Ableton is set up to receive MIDI from channel 1, and then another is set up to receive MIDI from channel 2. Well, you can play them both at the same time, basically. Different tracks. And so that's pretty interesting. I encourage you to jump in this. Here you can set the MIDI channel that's going to be your main MIDI channel that you're sending things out. Setup, just again, different things. There's a whole bunch of things you can get into here. It's really great. We'll set the tempo to 85 to match our set, and the tempo in here kind of has to do with the roll function and the arp. So it's kind of important to set that, in my opinion, if you're going to be using those functions. Right now you can see we're in the live template, and so we can switch over. Now we're in the reason template. Okay, now there's a whole bunch of different presets that you can go through. Okay, now let's talk about this section right here. This I'll think of this kind of similar to the transport keys, in where they are meant for Ableton or your DAW. However, they do have fixed controls. So this is just a fader for the selected track. So let's jump over to session view. It'll give us a bit more of a bit easier way to view this. So if we come over to session view, we can see that this fader has complete control over the selected track, and we can actually navigate through selected tracks using these transpose buttons in tandem with shift. So if you hold down shift, you'll actually see it will move about the tracks. A really great thing is that you can also get to the master track. I really like that, how it just goes straight to the next return tracks and then finally to the master. Sometimes MIDI controllers are interesting and they don't like going on to the master track. But anyway, one thing that I found was kind of frustrating is that, say we open up this drum rack and then we try to move about the cabin, you cannot. It's unfortunate. You cannot select tracks within racks. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. So like I said, we have the fader here, which controls the selected tracks fader. And then let's talk about the transport controls a little bit more because we didn't really get into that too much. I'm going to go back to the arrangement view for that. And one thing I really like about this controller is these buttons right here. You can control where the insert marker is. I just absolutely love that. I love it. All right, here we have the stop button. Works just like Ableton stop button. Double click to go back to the beginning. Play button. Okay. So, great MIDI controller all around. Love the transport keys. You can record very easily. Hold shift to activate and deactivate the loop button. You have your play transport, your stop, double tap to go back to the beginning, move around the arrangement very easily like that. Can't beat it. Okay. So, now let's talk about the encoders right here. Great encoders. So basically, think of these selectors as encoder banks, and basically you have 3 different banks to choose from that all do different things, and it's pretty self-explanatory. So if you see right here, this one says plugin. So let's click that, and you'll see that only that the plugin is parameter is selected. And so what this means is that whatever corresponding device in live that we have selected, we're going to have complete control over all the knobs and things. So if you can see, the attack on the kick is moving. And then, so whatever is selected, we'll give you controls over that. And you just have pages upon pages, and you can just go in, kind of mess with this. And the great thing about the LCD screen is it will kind of display what you are controlling. So here I'm on the drums track. Move this a little bit. Oh, it's the envelope release. Okay. Move this a little bit. Loop, fade. Okay, great. So that is very helpful. And what we can also do is hold shift and go page up and page down, and this will actually take us to different commands pertaining to each encoder. So it will bring us down the list, and we'll eventually get to the very end of pretty much each parameter. And that's kind of the beauty of Automap 4, is that it just sees what all the parameters are, maps it to it. Now, there are a few problems, like sometimes when you start moving about the banks, some parameters you won't be able to see on the screen, but you'll be adjusting them, and some won't even be active, so that's kind of interesting. They need to work that out, but just keep that in mind. Know what you're affecting, and make sure you're doing what you want. So that is the plugin page of the encoders. Alternatively, we have a MIDI page for the controllers, which kind of works similar to the plugins, but it just is empty mappings. So basically you can map these to whatever you want on top of the plugin and just kind of switch back and forth between them, and even use them in tandem. I find that if I don't really prefer what the Automap has mapped, instead of adjusting the actual Automap preset, I'll instead go into Ableton and kind of adjust that as needed, and I find that works a little bit better for me. So now let's talk about mixer mode for the encoders, and you get to mixer mode by selecting both plugin and MIDI modes with the encoders, and this will bring us to main controls on the mixer. So again, I'm going to go back to session view, and here we are. So the first page controls the pans, and you can see that this is track 1, this is track 2, track 3, first return track, second return track. Unfortunately, it does not go to the master. Like I said, some MIDI controllers just won't let you get there with some parameters, and this is one of them. But nobody is really panning their master track, so that's all right. Moving on, like I said, hold shift and use the page up, page down keys to basically navigate throughout the different pages. And so page 2 of the encoders in mixer mode will actually correspond to the return or to the sends basically per track. So this is send 1 or send A as Ableton would refer to it, and basically this is for all the tracks. You can go through, adjust as needed, and then the more sends you have, the more pages you'll have. So I have a second send, so now I can access send B, and so on. Okay, so beyond that, the mixer encoders, it's basically pans and sends. That's what you got these for. And then you have your fader to control the track level up and down. Very useful. So basically you have everything you need. You can switch between tracks, which is awesome. Only thing, again, you cannot get into the actual racks. Unfortunate, but that's right. So another awesome thing about this controller is the ARP, the roll, the drum pads, okay? The drum pads are great on this. So basically, it starts off with nothing selected. You just have some basic drum pads that will launch the corresponding clips. If you're a big time session user, which I am not, you can go into clip launch mode, and basically this will start launching clips like that based on where you press. Cool. And as you saw there, they will actually light up when you have a corresponding pad on. So here we have a pad, and we can launch that. So that's the clip launch mode, and that's kind of the most basic mode within the drum sequencer. So I'll go back to the arrangement. And so outside of clip launch mode, again, regular drum pads corresponding to the arm track. And so a really cool thing is we have roll, which will basically just repeat whatever you're holding, and it's touch sensitive, so you could go, or velocity sensitive, sorry, which that's really great. You can adjust the tempo by hitting shift, boom, that will bring you straight to the setup tempo where we were at before. Again, we already set it to 85, so we're good to go on that. Hit it again. So that's the roll mode. Just unselect, and you're back to no roll. So now let's talk about the ARP mode. ARP mode, sincerely awesome. So basically you have this step sequencer ARP that you can basically hit as needed, and you can see the harder you hit it, the darker the pad will be. And so basically it's a velocity sensitive ARP sequencer. So that is really great. You can basically hold down the keys that you want to play, and then as you see, it'll siphon through those. And then going into settings again, shift ARP will bring you to the LCD tab, and you just have a ton of different options. Just a ton of different options. You can set some swing. You could go up, down, down to. They have a few different modes that you can play with on how the notes travel between one another, and I highly encourage you. There's a lot of great stuff in here. And so exit ARP mode, just press it, back to regular pads. Okay, awesome. So I highly recommend checking this specific controller out. It's a little big for only being a 25 key keyboard, but I mean, because it's big, it packs a ton of features, man. Just absolutely impressed. Would highly recommend. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this video helped. If anything, maybe it'll help you use your Impulse a little bit more strategically. Maybe I showed you something new. Anyways, take care, guys. See you next time.